Originally opening on October 1st, 1982, Epcot was the second wave of Disney theme parks after Disneyland and its replica park, the Magic Kingdom in Florida. Epcot's focus was ambitious, pitting modern science with innovation and world history with discovery. But this wasn't the first idea for Epcot, and it certainly wouldn't be its last. Epcot's had an identity crisis since the mid-1960s, when it seemingly died along with its creator, Walt Disney. After the opening of Disneyland in 1955, Walt Disney set his sights on something even grander. He opted to purchase a large plot of land in central Florida for an idea called Disney World, but it wouldn't be exactly the theme park capital of the world like you and I know it as. In fact, Walt Disney thought of it as 5 different spaces, all connected together by a monorail. This version of Epcot saw you travel south to north on the monorail track as you arrived at the airport or the transportation hub by car. From that point on, you would move to the Welcome Center, where you would get your room key for your hotel and your theme park tickets to the Magic Kingdom. From the Welcome Center, you would move to Epcot's Industrial Park, where you would learn about new inventions and innovations coming from leading brands and sponsors of the Disney World property, before moving on to the actual Epcot itself, a circular city with a central hotel at its core. And then the northernmost point of this Disney World property would be the Magic Kingdom, very similar to the Magic Kingdom that we have today. But I want to focus really on Epcot, as it was never meant to be a theme park. In fact, it was really meant to be an experimental city, a place where people would pay rent and become residents. The original name was actually an acronym for the Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. And this city was groundbreaking because it was all pre-planned out. You would have your parks, your urban areas, your suburban areas, your shopping, your transportation, and everything else taken care of for you. All residences would continually be upgraded with the latest inventions from that industrial park that we would have visited. And on the city level, which would really be kind of the second level, there would be no cars. All of the cars would either be at the transportation hub at the very end of the monorail when you first arrived, or they would be going underneath the city to make all the deliveries for restaurants and retail shops. So instead of taking a car around the city, you would hop onto a people mover and go either inward towards the city or outwards towards the suburban areas, allowing for zero traffic and mostly walking patrons. In the central city area around the hotel, you would find a lot of different shops spanning different items from around the world. So if those innovations that were in your new home weren't enough, you could find your way to the city and decorate yourself. But details still needed to be worked out, and in 1966, Walt Disney died and his futuristic city seemingly died along with him. Walt Disney World would still open in 1971 with the Magic Kingdom and several hotels, but this was not the resort that Disney wanted. Walt Disney World would become a theme park without an airport or an industrial park or a city. Epcot, though, was still not gone forever, as Disney Imagineering decided to take some of Walt's ideas for that city and implement them into a brand new style of park. A mix of industrial intervention and world traveling was mixed together to create 1982's Epcot Center. Epcot Center, which would eventually later be shortened again to Epcot, was a pretty far stretch from what Walt Disney had initially entailed. People were learning about new inventions and how to make the world better in a different way. Instead of living in a carless city with no pollution, they would instead go on a little boat ride where they'd learn how to make better produce. But people still fell in love with the 1982 version of Epcot, but that wasn't even the last version of this park. During the 1980s, the key to Epcot was education. It was a hands-on place for exploration, similar to how modern-day Montessori schools are now. There were things in Epcot that you could touch, taste, smell, and feel. It was basically an interactive school day filled with discovery and adventure. But as the 1980s progressed, and would eventually turn into the 1990s, People weren't just looking for little boat rides or some food. They wanted thrills. They wanted excitement in their theme parks. And Epcot delivered that. Test Track replaced World of Motion, Body Wars was added into the brand new Wonders of Life Pavilion, and Honey, I Shrunk the Audience gave people a 3D thrill. All of these attractions, though, took away from the hands-on discovery of the 1982 version of the park. But these attractions were only the beginning, as people more and more looked for less of the education and more of the thrill. By the mid-2000s, we had Mission Space replacing Horizons, and we had an addition of Soarin' to the Land Pavilion. But again, these attractions had less of a hands-on approach and more of an exciting, fast-paced adventure that had a vague educational value. And by this point, the idea of Epcot that Walt Disney had once originated was far gone. And Epcot sat somewhere between a place to seek thrills and a place to seek education. But that wasn't the end, as Disney decided to change Epcot once again, adding more of their films and characters into all of the areas of the park. The Living Seas Pavilion would become the Seas with Nemo and Friends. The Rio del Tiempo attraction in Mexico would change to the Grand Fiesta Tour starring the Three Caballeros. We would get a Kim Possible game that would take over all of World Showcase and would eventually become a Phineas and Ferb game. We would get the addition of Frozen to the Norway Pavilion, and we would get tons of meet and greet characters spanning the park. And that change brings us to today. As of right now in 2019, it seems like the park is once again going to have a completely different overhaul. Not necessarily additions, but a complete change to the Future World area, where Future World is going to be going away. In its place will be 3 different lands: World Discovery, World Celebration, and World Nature, that will go along with the World Showcase. These huge changes that have constantly been a part of Epcot's history are something that needs to be addressed, though. As some people love the way that Disney has gone, there are many people who don't care for it at all. And with all of that being said, I want to address the concerns of park goers. Many have feared that their version of Epcot is going away, and that Epcot itself is veering further and further away from the original idea of the park. But the truth of the matter is, the Epcot that was built in 1982 was never the original idea of that park. In fact, it was never supposed to be a park. It was supposed to be a living, breathing city. And Epcot, the city, will probably never come to fruition. And unlike many of the other Disney theme parks around the world that have roots in one specific theme, Epcot doesn't have that. Its theme is humanity, and the human experience is consistently evolving. Epcot can still be a place for education if you want it to be, but it can also be home to characters, from real stories to made-up fairy tales. It can be a place to simply relax, eat with friends, share a drink, and it can be a place where curiosity can flourish. Epcot, more than any Disney theme park in the entire world, is open to interpretation, based on your human experience, based on our human stories collectively. Am I in love with Epcot the same way that I once was when it was a different park? Of course not. But I still enjoy the park as it is today. And in fact, Epcot still continues to be my favorite park at the Walt Disney World Resort. And that's not because it's Walt Disney's big giant dream, or that I have some core memory that still stands and has completely changed my life forever. But it's because it's like me. It's always adapting. It's always growing and changing, and it's being developed continuously into a brand new way to tell the human story like never before. But I want to know what you think about Epcot. Have you ever been to the park? What do you love about that park right now? Are you excited about its future, or do you cherish its past? I'd love to know your thoughts about Epcot and where the park is going, and I'd love to continue the discussion down in the comments below. And if you love this video and you love Network 1901, make sure to subscribe to the channel and make sure to like this video. It does help us to go a long ways. If you're interested in helping out the channel as well even more, you can check out our Patreon page at patreon.com facebook.com/network1901, or there is a link down below in the description. It would go a long ways to help us out. You can get awesome stickers just like these, and so much more different content that we put up there all the time. But thank you again for watching. I'd love to keep this discussion going, and until next time, keep on moving, people.